Okay, here it is, Sunday, March the 19th. We're on lesson 127. Boy, Zephaniah chapter 1, we'll review Habakkuk. We've got a sign of the times, a scripture of the day, and then we'll do Zephaniah chapter 1. Recalling Habakkuk. Habakkuk 2:4, of course, is the most memorable verse in Habakkuk because it was the verse that sparked the Protestant Reformation, which turned on the light to Martin Luther, and he figured out that, gee, there is no performance in this salvation equation. So why am I climbing up the stairs on my knees? So that was a big step forward. The book is addressed to the Babylonians, but like all these minor prophets, there is a section in there which you cannot align with the Babylonians. It's an end time issue, and it's like when the various passages talk about the king of Tyre or the king of Babylon. It's talking about a person, and then all of a sudden it's skewed to talking about that which is behind the person, like Satan or Lucifer. Well, this is kind of the way this seems to work. There is a primary thrust at a place, people, but then in the background it continues to go on toward the end of the age and when the wrath of God is meted out for the last time. Now, when we get to Zephaniah, which is what we're going to do today, there is no primary local event. This thing is directed at the end of the age, and that's really interesting. At least it is to me. Okay, and then in chapter 3 it talks about the sun and the moon standing still. It talks about earthquakes. It even talks about the wrath of God being poured out on rivers and on the seas. And so, this clearly is a reference to end time events. And then the end of Habakkuk is the joy, the rejoicing in the salvation of the Lord. Implying that all these bad things are coming, but you don't have to worry about them because you are a child of God and that you will not have to go through this. We, as we see these things coming, can look up with hope and anticipation instead of dread and what am I going to do here now? Where am I going to go to hide? There is no place. The only salvation available, either temporal or more immortal, is in Jesus Christ. You've got no choice. That's it. So, moving right along, Turkey's leader declares war against Christian Europe. Erdogan, I guess that's his name, leader of Turkey, declared he intends to have Muslims invade Christian Europe in the future and that Turkey will build nuclear bombs soon to attack the Christian West and to subjugate the church. Well, I've been teaching Bible prophecy for a long time, and everybody saw turkeys on the ragged edge. They were going sometimes Muslim, sometimes towards the west, sometimes. I said, at some point they're going full bore in the Muslim camp. And we didn't know when that was going to happen, but it's happening right here in front of our eyes. We hear of Turkey's mufti calling for Turkey to go nuclear. Erdogan is also sounding some alarm warning Europe regarding its Muslim headscarf ban, and the day of reckoning with Turkey will soon come to pass. Erdogan is reacting to the ban of headscarves and to Israel banning mosques from blasting the call to prayer in Jerusalem. Boy, I thought that was a good move. When I was in Erbil, Iraq, the hotel I had and was staying in, right across the street there was a mosque with a speaker aimed right at my room. I can tell you when 5 o'clock in the morning came without question. That thing was loud, and those people, I don't know how you can live with it. It's awful.
Is it been banned for sure?
Huh?
Has it been banned in Jerusalem?
Well, they're in Jerusalem, I think they banned it. And as a response to all of this, Hayrettin Karman, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's main fatwa giver, whatever that is.
How did you get through that?
I have no idea. Said that Turkey should acquire weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear arms, to stand up against the West. Karaman was not giving his instruction to build just a few nuclear bombs, but to match the West's ability. Let's invent WMDs to balance the West out, but let's not use our weapons of mass destruction unless it's necessary. The way to not resort to WMDs is to possess the weapons that are equal to or more powerful than the ones our enemy has. Here we go, an arms race. Turkey used to be in NATO. I think they still are. And you see where we're headed with all this. Now, this brought to my mind Daniel 7. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all the other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it into pieces. Now, when I used to teach on Daniel, this word, different from all other kingdoms, I didn't really understand what that means. But I understand it now because we're in the end of the age. This different kingdom is started by a religious leader. The chief executive officer of Iran is, for the first time in history, a religious Muslim, Ali Khamenei. And it says, shall devour the whole earth. That word is Kol Amah, because this is written, this section is written in Aramaic. That word Amah in Hebrew, the Hebrew translation is Eretz. And Eretz means the whole land, the whole world, or the whole country, or the whole region, not necessarily the whole world. So what this is telling me is reinforcing the notion that the Antichrist kingdom is not worldwide, it's regional wide. It is a kingdom. It's in the region of the Seleucid portion of Alexander the Great's kingdom. So with that, it says there are 10 horns or 10 kings who shall rise from this kingdom, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be different from the first ones and shall subdue 3 kings. That is Iran and Ali Khamenei. Look for him to start making inroads at other countries in the region. And I can come up with 3 real quick that he will probably overrun. One of them is Iraq, one of them is Syria, and the other one could be Kuwait. Who knows? But you can come up with 3 right there, almost with the boundaries of Iran.
What if they subdivide Iraq and the Kurds get the north and they start to break into a Sunni and a Shiite? That could be 3 kingdoms there.
It very well could. And the Kurds are, of course, they are the ancient Medes. And the region of the Antichrist is the Medo-Persian region, because that's the legs mentioned in Revelation. It says that his kingdom it stands on feet like a bear, and that means that's where the region is that it comes from. And of course the bear was the symbol of the Medo-Persian Empire. And so that is a good clue that the Kurds are involved in this somehow, and they will not go willingly. I can guarantee you that. They're going to have to be some of this group that's overrun. So at any rate, we got these 10 kings, and this 8th one, who is different, well, he's different because he's a religious leader, and he will subdue 3 kings. You can come up with 3 real quick, and he will speak pompous words against the Most High. Well, he's already speaking pompous words against the Most High, and shall persecute the saints of the Most High. Yeah, you just look at what's going on in Iran against Christians right now, or anybody that isn't a Muslim. And shall intend to change the times and the law. Then the saints shall be given into his hand for a time, times and half a time. 3.5 years. The last 3.5, that's when that one occurred. But the court shall be seated, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it forever. This word never came to my mind, or this meaning, until I just read it. The court shall be, who is that court? Me and thee. The court shall be seated, because we are up there. We're not down here.
An iron rod.
We will rule the world with an iron rod, and they shall take away his dominion. By virtue of basically issuing an edict. The court determines what is reality and what isn't. We will be operating under the auspices of the Most High God. Then the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole of heaven shall be given to the people, the saints of the Most High. And I would draw an arrow back to the court. These are the saints of the Most High. These are the people that have just been seated. And his kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. And this is the end of the account. And as for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly troubled me, and my countenance changed, but I kept the matter in my heart. Daniel didn't have a clue what he was talking about or what that angel was talking about. He just wrote it down faithfully and went about his business. We, at this end of the age, it all makes sense. It makes so much sense that it is staggering in my estimation. Because in the next 6 months, we're going to get to see some of this begin to happen. And we knew about it in advance. This is not just prose. This is not just writings, as the Jews would say. This is prophecy. Some of the most powerful prophecy in the Scripture, and the most reliable, because Jesus referred to Daniel in Matthew 24. And he says, well, you want to know what happened? Look back there at what Daniel said. So Jesus gives it great credibility. But that court inference of the rapture. All right, Zephaniah chapter 1. The word of the Lord which came to Zephaniah, the son of Cushi, the son of Gedaliah, the son of Armiah, the son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, son of Ammon, king of Judah. Now there's a lot of ayahs in there. I will utterly consume everything from the face of the land. Eretz. That word eretz in this context sounds like we're talking about the whole earth. And I will consume man and beast. I will consume the birds of the heaven, the fish of the sea, and the stumbling blocks along with the wicked. That means idols. And I will cut off man from the face of the land. That word eretz again. I think in this context we're talking about the world.
How are they interpreting that? Because in the previous verse they interpreted eretz as being the whole earth. Now they're
In the context of
land.
the kingdom and the region that we're talking about, you couldn't make that determination based upon that passage alone. You would have to go and research other elements of it, because other than just that word showing up, you wouldn't know. Because once again, when you are translating Hebrew, you are at the same time interpreting Hebrew. And that's where, you got my, some of you think that Noah's flood was worldwide. Some of you. There's a believer over there. There's a believer that believes that. Well, huh? Okay. But I would just point out to you, hey, there is an argument on the other side of the coin. You don't have to change your belief. I'm just saying there's an argument there. When you see the word kol eretz, that's the whole land or the whole country. That word eretz, you've got to interpret that. And if you interpret it your way, power to you.
Well, I would submit that those of us that believe it was the whole earth see that God has even more power than those that live in a small area.
You start earlier, you lose control sooner.
That's what I hate about this class. These people are all smarter than I am. Huh?
We were busy over here. What
What she said.
Do I have to repeat it?
Yes. Yeah, having a dinner.
What?
You know what this is? This is mutiny.
This is a mutiny. And there's no bounty.
So what did Christine say?
What?
Who was
Zephaniah?
Who was besides the prophet? Was he anything besides that?
Nope. We don't know much
He was
about
the
it. We
son
don't
of
even know when he
Cushi,
lived.
who was the son of
Yeah.
Zephaniah, who was
He was the son of all that.
Christine, what did you say?
This back corner wants to hear what you said.
I just said I submit that those of us who believe the flood was worldwide believe that God has more power than those who believe it's a small little area. And we just acknowledge
You're
that.
saying they're small thinkers then?
Very
Small
small.
Small
thinkers.
thinkers.
Well, Phil is not here to defend himself.
Poor Carl.
Like I say, this is pretty awful here.
Why do you show up every Sunday? I wouldn't even come.
I don't know what I'm doing here. I mean, I'm a punching bag, for God's sake.
You and Rodney Danger.
Yeah, me and Rodney. No, exactly. I think we're related. Hebrew names and their meaning. I always like to look up the names and what these guys, what their names mean, because it's kind of interesting. And Zephaniah literally means Jehovah has treasured. Cushi, his father, means their blackness. Boy, why would you name a kid that? Gedaliah is Jehovah is great. Armiah is Jehovah speaks. Hezekiah is Jehovah is my strength. Josiah, whom Jehovah heals. Armon is skilled workman, and Judah means praised. Now, you can't say you didn't learn something today. Huh?
Thank you.
So the reference to Jehovah is from the Ayah?
The IAH,
That's the
that is Yahweh, or Yod He Vav He. And so when you see Yod He Vav He, it's interpreted as IAH in the English translation. Yeah.
Where's Gillis on
Gillis? Giliah? Giliah?
Oh, you
That means Jehovah has a sense of humor. Get even with you. What was I doing? Oh, yes. I will stretch out my hand against Judah and against all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. I will cut off every trace of Baal from this place. There are names of idolatrous priests with their pagan priests, those who worship the host of heaven on the housetops, and those who worship and swear oaths by the Lord, but also swear by Milcom or Molech. Those who have turned back from following the Lord and who have not sought the Lord nor inquired of him. We were trying to figure out, who's going with the rapture. Well, I guarantee you, those who have not sought the Lord or inquired of him or not sought him or are not following him. These are people that are going to be left behind. So that's one thing. Now, there was something else I wanted to point out here. You know who Milcom is, or Molech? It's one of the Canaanitic gods that demanded human sacrifice, not just human babies.
Well, yeah, it was a statue with outstretched arms, and they would heat it up, and they would cook their babies.
Pretty close. He had little pockets
A
up
pizza
there.
oven.
You load up those 6 pockets with babies and cook them. I mean, this is the most despicable thing I can imagine. But you can imagine, how we would see that. Our country has killed 60 million babies, and we haven't been repulsed at all.
Well, one of Hillary's emails to Vanessa jokingly said she would sacrifice a child of Moloch in the backyard.
There is an argument to be made that these are all Satan worshipers.
They are.
They are, I
So,
said jokingly just to not shock
yeah.
you.
Also, I just taught this, about Moloch, and the thing that is interesting is, and what it brought out to me, is that this all happened when Joshua crossed over the river Jordan to go in and inherit the country, that God told him, you kill everybody in there and you take their land. And that's who they were, that's what they were doing. So that's why God wanted them dead. And when somebody says, oh, God is a mean God because he had all these people killed, and they took all their possessions. Well, hello, this is what they were doing.
This is what they were
And then they
doing.
would do that, and then they would go worship the Lord.
Yeah, exactly, and then they would go worship the Lord.
So-
And they would
But
have
some of
sexual
these
relations.
people didn't worship the Lord at all. They were, in my view, Nephilim. They were a prodigy of Satan himself, and that's another reason why they wiped them out. God doesn't play second fiddle to anybody.
Yeah, he didn't want them intermixed with those.
No, and that's why he told them to wipe them out. So, at any rate, that just times the times have changed, but the events certainly don't seem to. And in Leviticus we read that thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire of Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. That is thy God, Elohim. I am the Lord, Yahweh. Yahweh Elohim, that's his name. Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. You know what? God's wrath is building up. If we don't stone him with stones, guess what?
Meteors.
Meteors are coming.
He's gonna stone them.
He's going to get every last one of them.
And another political reference, when they tried to trap Trump into saying that women who have abortions should be punished,
He should have just read that
should have
and
just
walked
read
away.
Leviticus and walked away.
But of course, he doesn't know to read that. But I mean, you know, here we have child infanticide going on in our country by the hundreds of millions. Well, hundreds of millions, tens of millions anyway. And so if God is true to his word, these people are subject to being stoned to death. And
we
a
call it
very
healthcare.
good point. Yes, and denied health care. Yes. Deuteronomy.
That's what Planned Parenthood calls it. They're providing valid, needed health care to women.
Yes.
Wow.
You know, that was,
Healthcare. Planned Parenthood
Yeah.
might go out of business.
yeah, we're sitting here supporting that. Any rate, if there is among you any of your gates which the Lord gives you, a man or a woman who has been wicked in the sight of the Lord your God, in transgressing his covenant, who has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, either the sun or the moon or any of the host of heaven, which I have not commanded, as it is told you, and you hear of it, then you shall inquire diligently, and if it indeed is true and certain that such an abomination has been committed in Israel, then you shall bring out of your gates that man or that woman who has committed that wicked thing, and you shall stone them to death with stones. Do we have people here that worship the sun and the moon and the stars? Who, by the way, is the moon god? That would be El Alat, whom we know as Allah. The host of heaven, we got people that worship the stars. A lot of those stars in Hollywood. But the point being, what is the just reward for such people? Stone them to death. Stones are on the way, by the way. Be silent in the presence of the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is at hand. For the Lord has prepared a sacrifice, and he has set apart his guests. I wonder who those set apart guests might be. I think those would be me and thee. They have to be set apart. Because if they were to stay down here, they would get stoned too, right? And it shall be in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that I will punish the princes and the king's children and all such as are clothed with adulterous apparel. Now, I'm not sure what that means. My suspicion is that the adulterous apparel may be apparel that is honoring a foreign god. You know, you can tell if one is an Orthodox Muslim, their wife has a old burqa, yeah. Pretty easy to wear, or they have a scarf on of some kind, usually black. Because like Ayatollah Khomeini said, Islam is a dark religion. He was right. It is a dark religion. Ain't no joy there. Nothing but death. And in that same day I will punish all those who leap over the threshold, who fill their masters' houses with violence and deceit. I'm not sure what this word leap over the threshold means. I'm sure it probably has some local context which I couldn't find. I looked it up and I just couldn't find. But to those who fill their masters' houses with violence and deceit, violence and deceit go hand in hand with Islam. I mean, you know, if you are against Islam or if you're not Orthodox, in other words, if you don't believe the way I believe, then violence and deceit come your way. We're going to kill you. And certainly being deceptive is one of the the prime operatives, because deceit is all right as long as it ends up advancing the cause. So what a religious system. And then, like Muhammad said, when he died, he said, I've been told by an angel that there will be two groups that come out of Islam, but only one of them is the correct one. But he didn't say which one. They got the Shiites and the Sunnis. So what did he do? He instituted perpetual conflict between the elements of his religion. And the Shias kill the Sunnis, and the Sunnis kill the Shias, and occasionally they kill anybody else that happens to be on the road. And that was pretty much a fulfillment of the admonition to, who was the son of all, or the progenitor of all Arabs? Who was it?
Go back to Ishmael?
Yeah, Ishmael. That's the word I was looking for. You know, the progeny of Ishmael will be like a wild donkey. And that every man's hand against his brother and every one against everybody else. So if they're not killing the Jews, they're going to kill each other. And that prophecy has been fulfilled right down to the present and current age.
So there's a reference to Samuel, 1 Samuel 5:5,
Mhm.
on that leaping over the threshold.
Yeah?
And it talks about when the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, there was Dagon, one of their idols,
Oh,
fallen
yeah.
on the ground before the ark of the Lord. Let's see, fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. They took Dagon and put him back in his place. The following morning they rose, he fell again. His head and hands had been broken off and were lying on the threshold. Only his body remained. That's why to this day neither the priest of Dagon nor any others who enter Dagon's temple at Ashdod step on the threshold. So it's a reference to
See? What do you need me for here? Because I looked, I tried to find commentators that would speak about it, and nobody would speak about it. That's perfectly understandable now. It makes sense. So see, if I don't have the answer, we have
priests
answers.
and followers of a false god.
Yeah. Dagon, that's the fish god who had a mitered headpiece. I could go there, but I won't. There shall be on that day, says the Lord, a sound of mournful cry from the fish gate, and a wailing from the second quarter, and a loud crashing from the hills. First thing that came.
Ron Valley?
The Tyropian Valley is the name of the Kidron Valley. That's the Roman name for the Kidron Valley, is the Tyropian Valley.
Yeah, Pat kind of hung out at the fish gate. I kind of hung out in the dung gate.
I thought I had something more on this, but there are 4 gates in. Oh, I wrote this down. I should read my notes. The fish gate is the gate on the north wall, just a little east of modern Damascus Gate. It was the closest gate to the fish market, and is believed that the fishermen from the Sea of Galilee and the Jordan River, Jewish and Syrian alike, used this to bring fish to the market. How about that? Well, I got another slide over here. I better read this one. Wail, you inhabitants of Maktish, for all of the merchant people are cut down, and all of those who handle money are cut off. And it will come to pass at that time that I will search Jerusalem with lamps, and punish the men who are settled in complacency, who say in their heart, the Lord will do no good, nor will he do evil. In other words, your God is a figment of your imagination. Doesn't exist. He won't do anything bad or evil or good because he doesn't exist. He's just, figment of your imagination. I think that logic has been around for a long time. So, I had a... I'll see if I can remember it now. There are 4 quarters in Jerusalem. The first quarter, I believe, is the Jewish quarter. The second quarter is the Muslim quarter. The third quarter is the Christian quarter. And the fourth quarter is, I don't know, Armenian. The second quarter is the one where the howling comes from. That's the Islamic quarter. Isn't that interesting? Another lucky guess by this Bible of ours. Therefore their goods shall become booty, and their houses desolation, and they shall build houses and not inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards, and they shall not drink their wine. For the great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hastens quickly. The noise of the day of the Lord is bitter. Their mighty men shall cry out. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of devastation and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. This doesn't sound like a good day to me. I don't think I want to be here. The day of the Lord. Well, anytime you see that phrase, you know that we're talking about the wrath of God being poured out.
And that's the same as the day of the Lord's sacrifice?
Yep.
That we referenced earlier?
Yeah, now that sacrifice, remember when we talked about Yom Kippur, I offered to you the understanding that the Jews who are down here, how are they, well, atoned for? And the argument can be made that they are atoned by the blood of all of these that will be destroyed on that day. It's an atoning sacrifice for the Jews because they don't have any faith in the Lord, or at least not in Jesus. Their faith is in the law, and they can't keep the law. So how do they balance the books? Well, there is an argument that says that there is a blood sacrifice, and it's billions of people. So the day of the Lord, not a good day to want to be here on that day. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion and sound the alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord comes, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, as a day as morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There hath not been ever the like. Neither shall there be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. And the land is a garden of Eden before them, and behind it a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. This army and this great people, I think this is a euphemism for a meteorite bombardment, because that's exactly what happens. The meteors come down, the land in front of them is just fine, but after the meteor shower has gone over, there ain't nothing left. So that's one possible interpretation of this. But I believe it's the King James, maybe somebody has a King James here, it says not a great people, but a great army. And that army may in fact be an army of asteroids and meteorites and the like. A day of trumpet and alarm against the fortified cities and against the high towers. I just saw one of these documentaries, I guess it was a travelogue, on cities in the Middle East that border on the Persian Gulf, and how these cities have been built up overnight, and just massive skyscrapers. And they've spent billions of dollars in this place, and they're brand new cities. Going to get knocked down. They're not going to be a marble standing when this thing is over. So these fortified cities and these high towers, and you just can't miss this high tower business when you see those cities. They're Islamic, and they're going to get pounded. And I will bring distress upon men, and they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord, and their blood shall be poured out like dust, and their flesh like refuse. Sure don't want to be here then. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in that day of the Lord's wrath. But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he will make speedy riddance of all those who dwell in the land. All those references, I think you can interpret as the whole world. The whole land, the world in its entirety. And the fire of his jealousy, that's one of the things which is a result of the meteor strikes. They had a meteor strike, which was not reported. You heard about fires all over the place. I just talked with my sister last night. They had nearly 1 million acres up in the Panhandle that burned up. They hardly got any press. And there was another one, I think it was in Ohio, but that thing started from a meteorite strike, and nobody picked up on it much. But They saw the crater where the thing hit and the fire that started from there. So this is just a preamble of what is yet to come. And I will bring distress upon men, and they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord, and their blood shall be poured out like dust, their flesh like refuse, neither their silver nor their gold. And I will make a speedy end to all of them. So we got bad times coming. The only thing I say that the only salvation available is.
And if tectonic plates shift, we could have volcanoes opening up, and the molten middle of the earth could be flowing freely across.
Absolutely, I'm convinced that that's exactly what's going to happen, because it says that all the mountains are going to be knocked down. And as soon as the planets have, the planetary system of Nibiru comes by, it will grab a hold of, gravitationally wise, planet Earth, and it will pull on the exterior of us. And you now you got a mechanism for the whole planet being flattened. The valley's filled up, the mountains knocked down, and all the islands are gone. Yes?
In reference to Nibiru and the elites that are building bunkers underground, God said that in the last days that will be their grave. Isn't that interesting? They think their bunkers are going to save them, but that's
Yeah, they have put their faith in the ground, and so they built very expensive graves for themselves, because there is no salvation in the hole in the ground. I don't recommend it. And that's another wonderful thing about this. There's a guy right down from on my block who left a beautiful house. He's headed for the hills. I didn't understand at the time, because this was about a year ago, I didn't understand why. He was a prepper. And I thought, well, what are you prepping for? My word, this is ridiculous. But he was on the inside. He was a big wig at Dell Computer. And he knew what was going down, and he was getting out of Dodge, because he knows what's about to hit. And there's a lot of those elitists that know that, and they put their faith in their smarts. We're going to beat this. We're going underground.
Well, my
Bunkers
question,
in the ground that don't work.
my question about that is, I know the tribulation is going to be the worst of the worst, but what if there's just rough times before then?
What if there's what?
Just rough times before then. I think that's what Christian preppers would.
Well, in terms of rough times, I don't think so. I think we are in right now what is called the Shevalah Shel Mashiach, which is the birth pangs of the Messiah. And if you have set your course on Jesus as your salvation, you can be pretty much assured that we're going to go through some difficult times over the next 6 months. And it's just no way of getting around it. That's what happens when the baby's about to be born. But there is the light at the end of that tunnel, and we are out of here. And in probably 5 months' time, I think we are going to start to see obvious evidence that there's something not right with this solar system of ours. And then we will hear NASA come out and say, oh yeah, that's just a cometary system, and it'll be a nice light show. Let's all go out and watch it. And you'll hear lots of ridiculous stuff like that, as well as don't believe your lying eyes. I think
How
Bill
about the
Clinton coined that.
UFO that was over Arizona?
Mm-hmm. Now that is another whole story.
That was seen in Tempe, Phoenix, all over.
Yeah.
Followed by 2 aircraft in the back and 2 in the front.
Yeah, there have been UFOs seen all over planet Earth that do things which, according to physics, you can't do. But if you can warp time and space, you can do them. And there are several people who's given deathbed confessions, basically, and who worked in Area 51, and he said, yeah, we have the ability to travel beyond the speed of light, and that this technology that we have, we got it from extraterrestrials. Well, they're not extraterrestrials, they're the old Nephilim that never really left.
A question, I don't know if you have done any research, but world leaders are going to Antarctica. What do you think is going on there? Even the Pope has gone there. There's something in Antarctica
John Kerry just went there.
Yes.
You-
This is another whole story, and you know we are watching this ping pong game from under the table. We don't have any direct. We don't have anybody that's been down there, but there's been the one astronaut that went down there and got sick. When he came back, he said, "There is great evil down there. Great evil," is what he said. My suspicion is they have found a Nephilim colony down there. They've probably been living down there forever because it's no place you can get to. I mean, it's hard to get to that place down there. I think we will find that out pretty soon. There is a promise in the scripture, by the way, that says in the last times there will come a great deception, so powerful, in fact, that even the elect will be deceived. That deception, I believe, are going to be these little spacemen come flying around in their flying saucers, and they're going to tell the world that, hey, there is no God. We created you. We altered the genome, and we were using you as gold miners on this planet because we needed gold for our planet. So there's going to be a bunch of BS come down here like you won't believe. But you know what? Everybody will buy into it.
So even the people who believe in evolution.
Oh, this is going to be proof text. See, I told you that our genome had been played with. Yeah.
Hollywood prepared us for decades. So.
Yeah.
One of the things, when I come across people who say they're quote, Christians, there's a great denial about giants. They believe only certain things what God says, which is funny. And they don't believe in meteor. They don't believe that there's a world war just, fall from the sky. And they don't believe in giants. And so that is where, and I believe no matter what I say to them, they just deny it. And God said, my people will die for lack of knowledge. And this is what I see. They only want to read certain parts of the Bible. They want to believe certain parts of the Bible, but they really don't want to know the truth. And the truth is not sugar and spice. It's it's everything. You're reading at the end of the Bible.
You cannot argue with those people. You can't argue with them, and you can't enlighten them. I've been there, tried that. Don't work. It don't work. There has to be something on the inside of you that opens up to this knowledge, this understanding. I am convinced that there is a very small minority of Christians that understand what's about to happen to them.
But don't you think that the rest of them needs to be informed?
Oh, they are.
Well,
Here's
what.
When you tell them, they don't believe it.
Trust me, they don't want to know. Trust me, I run into them. They don't want to know.
There are some people that you will never be able to convince, but there will be some in a few months. They are going to see something in the sky they simply cannot explain. They are going to go to NASA, and NASA is going to give them a BS story, and eventually they are going to come to the truth, and then some will start coming to church. They're looking for an answer. And at that point, then if we get to that point, then I think I will have an obligation to at least explain to the staff what's about to happen. And I think I could probably go to the staff right now and give them this story, and you know what?
Yeah.
Next week we would be looking for a new instructor.
Yes.
We'd be meeting somebody else.
Well, this could be like 9/11. After 9/11, a lot of people started going to church because it's something horrific had happened that they just never thought could possibly happen.
Yeah.
And they saw it all around them, and they started this, if we start seeing something, we better, that could be like that. So it's like a revival that we'll have in the last month or whatever, where people know something is not right.
I think there's a revival going on now.
Yeah.
Among, it's being called the awakening, like people are waking up to all the deception that we've been through politically for 3 decades.
Yeah, we have been deceived for a lot of years. And certainly Satan is certainly the prince of the power of the air in politics, in my estimation.
I think there is revival going on.
Well, I think there will be, and I think that there will be a short period of time where there will be an awakening.
Will we bring canned goods and water?
Yeah. Well, if you can store all of them that you want, you won't be able to use them because we ain't going to be here. But I myself prepared my house such that it can be used as a sanctuary.
If
And
it's here.
if it doesn't get here, if it doesn't get hit, that is,
Yeah.
but
Well, we
there's
asked-
going to be awful times. There's just no getting around it. If you look at the first seal judgments in the book of Revelation, there are multiple meteor strikes that hit. People are running to the hills. They're scared to death. And which brings back to me the 9/11 event, 9/11. There was a female reporter that was reporting this 9/11, and she was looking up at the tower, and it was the first time I ever heard a mainstream reporter use the name of the Lord with reverence. She said, "Oh my God." And it was the first time that God's name was used with a sense of reverence about it. So if that brings about a sense of reverence, what we have coming, there is going to be a lot of reverent people. Either they're reverent to God by virtue of their own desire, or because they were knocked to their knees by virtue of the rain of stones that's coming upon them.
Well, and if you prepare your house, if you should so desire to prepare your house with food or water, we've just asked God to use this place for a refuge, to preserve it as a
Yeah,
refuge.
so that
for people.
there will be, and anybody that's going to come into our house is going to know what's happened to them, because it's going to be there, and it's going to be obvious. So that's something to think about if you want to do it.
You know, I think there's another side to that too. There's a side of the ones that are just gonna grit their teeth and be angry and bitter, and they don't wanna hear any of that.
Yeah.
That is exactly what Revelation said. Revelation said that, and they would not repent of their evil deeds or their drug abuse or their idol worship or anything. That group of people, you know, you don't have to worry about them, because they're about to be taken
And
care
that's
of.
where, in 2 Timothy 3, where it talks about, and from those such people, stay away.
Yep, you want to stay away from them, and there's some people in the church you want to stay away from too.
Oh, you're looking at me.
Why is he always looking at me? What? Can you explain
I
that?
gotta defend myself, for heaven's sake.
Carl.
What?
Can you explain that without naming names? What kind of people in the church would we stay away from?
Well, there are some people in the church, you know, Satan is a religious being, and I'm convinced, based on what the New Testament said, that Jesus saw a bunch of Pharisees and Sadducees in the church, and he said, he called them the son of Satan. I'm wondering if that wasn't literally true. I've seen, for example, there is a guy on the YouTube that defends what I've been talking about. His name is Scotty somebody. Scotty Clark. Excellent job of defending what we're seeing. And there was another guy that came on and offered a counter to what Scotty Clark was saying. And he was pompous, he was arrogant, and he built straw men and then proceeded to knock them down. But he never talked about the main substance of Scotty's belief and interpretation of Revelation 12. It was, I don't know, it was as though to say that this isn't going to happen. You all are a bunch of wackos. And people like that have seen the truth and refuse to believe it, I think they will destroy your faith if you stay around them long enough. Now, what's going to happen when in 4 or 5 months or whenever it is that we see what's coming, maybe they will change their ways. I don't know. But there are some people I know in church, at least the church that I went to, which was a Jacobus Arminius type of church, meaning that faith plus works equals salvation. Man, there was no hope there. And so maybe there were some saved believers in that church, but they couldn't give me any hope. Yeah.
You can't get to first base with some of those people if you talk a little bit about stellarium.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they cut you off.
Yeah, I have it. I've done it about 3 times. I tried to share this story with people, and their eyes roll back in their head, and well, I just put an end to the conversation then.
They won't even listen long enough for you to.
No, you can't. There are some people you just simply can't argue with, so you don't. I wanted to point out what Revelation 6 says. And I looked, and he opened the sixth seal. And let's notice what happens. And behold, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair. There's going to be an intervening planet in between the sun and our earth. And some say for 3 days. And the moon became like blood. Well, it became like blood. It means it became red. And the stars of heaven fell to earth. There is going to be a meteor shower like you've never seen, as a fig tree drops its late figs when shaken by a mighty wind. And the sky receded as a scroll when it's rolled up. There is going to be a pole shift. The poles are going to transfer, and at noon, Jerusalem time, the sun's going down. And this world is literally going to be turned upside down. And when that happens, it apparently happens so fast that the atmosphere can't keep up with it. And what happens? It rolls under. And then the very cold top of the atmosphere comes down and rolls to the bottom. Yes?
It's happening now. I don't know if you see, look at the weather phenomenon we've been having. They had snow in Hawaii a week and a half ago. So I believe that we are in the last days. The signs are there, wars and rumors of wars and famine, pestilence, the animals who are dying, fish and birds. The earth has tilted. I mean, we cannot deny it. I mean, even scientists and astronomers say the earth has tilted. It is tilted, and what does it mean it's going to continue tilting?
Well, I believe as soon as, well, here's the story. I heard one guy who claimed to know what the size of Nibiru, or not Nibiru, the Nemesis, the brown dwarf. It's huge, and it's mostly made up of iron, which means it has a tremendous magnetic field. And there are those that, on the YouTube, there was a guy named Pete Peterson. He was a NASA engineer. They told Pete to get out of town and find himself a remote location, preferably in a valley or in a mountain range somewhere away from the population. They didn't tell him why, but they expected this thing to hit in early 2000. It didn't hit. Well, the reason I'm convinced that it didn't hit is because the like poles of the sun and this thing are coming at each other at the same way. What that causes is a deceleration in this planetary system, such that it's probably going to go into inner solar orbit around our sun. And that's what happens in 7 years. This thing is going to come right around in a collision course with planet Earth, such that unless those days were shortened, no life would have survived.
Is there any possibility with all this going on that we could possibly have like a cold front here?
You want a cold front here?
Yes, I do. I said it's snowing in New York and it's 80 degrees.
Snows in Hawaii,
here.
but this is Texas.
We always have an unseasonably warm weather. We never have unseasonably cool weather. Could we just have cool weather? It's like we're like in this little area that the whole, everything around us is changing.
I would
for us.
suggest that you move to New York.
We had a
No,
tornado.
I think it's going to get hotter. And I think this summer is going to set records. And here's the reason why. This thing, although it doesn't produce visible light, it produces infrared energy a bunch. And as it gets closer, we're going to get hit with infrared. And I don't know if you know anything about an infrared oven, but that's how you heat things up, in an infrared oven. This planet's going to turn to an oven.
Well, we're gonna have a really high light bill this summer.
Well, as long as we got electricity, we can survive it. But boy, it don't look good for those in a year from now. So at any rate, stars of heaven fell, the sky receded as a scroll, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. This is just the first 6 seal judgments. And if we have the timing correct, that group that comes out of great tribulation, they go through all 6 of these. This is not good. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man hid themselves in caves and in the rocks of the mountains. That's what's happening right now. And notice it's those mighty men, the commanders, this is the elitists of planet Earth. These are the people who have taken your $20 trillion and built holes in the ground for them. Not for you, for them.
Wonder where George Soros has dug into.
I hope it's real deep.
And on the fault line.
And on the fault line, yeah. And they said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits upon the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? Exactly right. Nobody can stand. And so what we have here in Zephaniah is a detailed account of what's about to happen during the wrath of God. It is further supported by the Revelation account. And next week, we're going to go into Zephaniah chapter 2. And with that, we'll have a review of Rosh Hashanah, because one of the names of Rosh Hashanah is Yom HaKiseh, which means the day of hiding. Who is going to get hidden? Yes.
Just real quick before any questions, there is the prayer request list, sign-ups for the Seder, Phil's prison ministry, Encore. If you need anything, an extra bulletin is over here.